Here we are.
Finally. Zoom.
Go back to your,
Hmm.
I think it's gonna pop up and start playing.
Zoom. All right, wait 1 second, because it does that in the background. It's paused. It's muted. Good. Because sometimes it does that and it goes and start playing and you hear the double videos going.
Uh-huh.
Yes, girl. Good morning again. And so,
Good
man, we
morning.
were just talking about, sorry guys, if you're jumping on and you see it's been 8 minutes. We was just getting everything together. And we was briefly talking about a transaction we're working on together, and it's with a HUD.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like really my first here in Florida. In Texas, we've done them before. It was more like the foreclosure ones.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
pretty much what they are, the foreclosure. But it's never taken this long. Tell me what you were saying, Carly. How long?
yeah. Yeah, so we went under contract, or at least I was told we went under contract, which I'm sure we did. Everybody agreed, verbally
Right.
at least, on the day before the election, I believe. So what was that, like
Mm-hmm.
November 4th?
They
And
did.
typically, whenever somebody goes under contract, I receive that contract so I can start moving it forward because the contract will say, 30 days or 45 days from whenever you sign the contract is when you're closing. So
Exactly.
as a lender, especially with a really volatile time like it's been, I wanted to lock his loan immediately because I didn't know how the election or the Fed meeting that week was going to affect his rate. And just so you know, at least at Fairway, I can't speak for other lenders, but
Right.
we can lock your rate. And if something happens to where rates dramatically improve, at least a quarter of a point or better, I have
Mm-hmm.
one option to renegotiate your rate lower during
Oh,
that period. So
so
essentially, I viewed it
mhm.
as let's put a ceiling on this rate because we
Okay.
don't know what's going to happen in this week, and if it gets better, I can renegotiate it. Usually costs you like an eighth of a point to renegotiate. So
Mm.
if it improves at least a quarter of a point, you get basically half of that improvement. But if it improves a whole point, you get 7/8 of a point better. So it's an
Mm.
overall plus,
Better.
especially in a scary time like that where we just don't know how the market's going to react, regardless of who wins and who loses. We just didn't know how the anybody
And
was going
this
to
is
react.
this is before you close, or are you talking about after you
So
close?
I locked his rate the day that we said we were under contract because the election was the next day. And
Yeah.
we just didn't know how
Didn't
markets
know.
were going to react. We didn't know who was going to win. We didn't know how markets were going to react. So I said, we're not playing games here. I don't want your rate to skyrocket on you.
Right.
And so we locked him. But
Mm.
and normally in normal world outside of HUD world, you have the contract the next day, you're moving
Next day.
forward. It's been so we got it yesterday.
Ah, and that's
It's
been
been
what? How many days?
2.5 weeks or so. What was that? The
Oh.
fourth to the, yeah, like 18 days.
And why does the dates matter for you guys? Like, so it's a 90-day lock? Is that what it is?
So I locked him in a 30-day lock, which
Oh,
which
okay.
luckily I can bounce him up to the 45-day lock. It's a
Okay.
touch more expensive.
Okay.
But it should be okay with that. I can do that. But it was just a matter of like, oh my gosh, like, and
Yeah.
what does the closing date say on the contract? If you
Egg.
signed on the 4th, does it say that you're closing on December 4th? Which we can make it work. There's a holiday in between, which makes things tricky. But
Okay.
that's the things that go into our mind when we're expecting contract. Is like, okay, what is the market doing? Do we need to lock you, or are we going to wait? We call it floating.
Yeah.
So you either lock it down or float and see what the market does in the meantime.
Right. Right.
And nobody was in a floating stance. Everybody was like, nope, lock
Lock
it.
it because it was uncertainty.
There's uncertainty. And
Yeah.
what I've always been told to ask a client, and you guys can kind of think of this is how we think of it. What
Okay.
would you be more upset at? Would you be upset if we locked it and rates got better? Or would you be
Mm.
upset if we didn't lock it and rates got worse?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
that's the question we always ask you guys, and 99 times out of 100, people are saying, I would be more upset if we floated and didn't lock it and rates got worse because
Exactly.
they could have been better, maybe, but you don't want worse because you're going in with thinking like my payment is XYZ, and then if it goes up a half a point, which would be a
It
huge,
fluctuates. Yep.
that's a
Yep.
lot. But if it
That's a
got
huge
worse,
jump.
that's more money out of your pocket every month. So,
Well,
um,
I'm glad. I'm glad it's working out for him.
yeah, yeah.
Slowly but surely. It's a great deal, though. It's a
Oh
really
God,
good deal.
for that price, that property was a steal. And I guess that's what HUD is. So
Yeah.
as I understand it, like you said, if you do find a HUD deal, and Kenesha, are these listed on the MLS? Like where do you
Yes.
find HUD
Hmm.
deals? They are.
Yep.
Okay.
They're listed just like regular properties. We're able to cipher through and find the HUD ones.
Yeah. Do you notice
Mhm.
that they tend to be better deals too? Because is this something that's been foreclosed upon or
Yeah,
yeah,
typically by the
usually?
time it gets to HUD is foreclosed on,
Okay. And HUD
right?
is a government agency. So does that
Mhm.
mean that the previous loan was a government loan of some sort? More than likely it was like a FHA, ABA.
It does more likely, yes. More
Okay.
likely was it a government loan? Because I mean, what other loans are there other than, you know what I'm saying? In a
Yeah,
sense,
your
but
conventionals are somewhat different. They when they say
okay,
government loans, we typically are referring to FHA, VA,
FHA,
or USDA.
exactly.
Conventional is still
It'll
backed
be a
by the
bank.
government,
It'll be a
but it's
bank
not.
one.
It's a little bit
Hmm.
different.
Right. That's where we'll see like the U.S. bank foreclosure or the Chase foreclosures and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the HUD, it'll be a government loan. And typically, sometimes you see some damaged properties as of late because they have what is called property preservation.
Uh-huh.
So a property preservation company will come out and winterize the house. So therefore, when we go out and we see properties immediately, when you see tape over the toilet, if you see this plastic bag thing that's over the
Uh,
sink, you know it's been winterized, meaning that typically they'll shut off the water
mm,
valve outside so no one can use this and no one can use that. And
yeah.
it's there because they don't know how long typically the foreclosure process is going to be. And
Yeah.
so if you're living in a cold state and you have waters in the pipe, it can burst,
First, yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So that's why they winterize the properties like that. But what I've been seeing because of those property preservation companies, you'll get houses that's been painted. I've seen them where they
Okay.
came in and did some work to it because it just depends what HUD is allowing or allotting that property preservation company to come and do. So if the property preservation company goes in and say, hey, I see this is damaged and this is damaged, they're trying to stop any kind of excessive or more damage to the property. So for
Mhm.
instance, if they go in and they're like, hey, the roof looked like it's leaking over here and leaking over there, they may suggest to HUD to go ahead and get the whole entire roof replaced. So that's where I go in sometimes and I see walls are painted, new roof, new flooring sometimes because they're trying to stop more damage to the property.
Yeah. Okay. And are you
Mhm.
finding typically that a HUD home has more damage than a normal home? Is that common
It's
or
common. It's
yeah.
common because you got to think sometimes people are angry because it's a
Mhm.
foreclosure. They're angry. Sometimes you have owners that it was renters that was living in that property and they're in another state and they're like, screw it, I'm not even gonna come
Yeah.
check it out. And the renter just got kicked out. And so therefore they just leave the house as is.
Yeah.
Hence why it's great that you have the property preservation company. So no longer in the beginning, back in like 2012, 2013, when I was seeing a lot of HUD foreclosures,
Mhm.
yes, you would see this was ripped out the wall,
Mhm.
like literally shower heads or sinks was ripped out the whole
Mhm.
wall and things like that. Nowadays, you really don't see that.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
got it.
you may. I mean, everything is possible. Anything is possible.
Right. But these tend to be good deals though, right? So like say this one, for example, that we're talking about ended up doing a purchase price of about 140. How much do you think this home is actually worth
Mhm.
should you list it on an MLS? Is that an accurate price or is it kind of low?
Yeah, that was low. That was
Uh,
low for that area. That was really low for that area.
yeah.
Especially sitting on 1 acre.
Yeah, it was a lot of land.
That's a lot of land,
Yeah.
right? Then the drive up to that area, you can tell it's underdeveloped. It's not all that developed yet, right? So
Yeah.
you're going off of the Normandy Boulevard all the way out, almost like into Baker County,
Yeah,
almost,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so it's land out there. You see a lot of development. And so I'm encouraging people, if you're looking to purchase, especially in Jacksonville, the west side is where it's at. They are expanding out there. You
Uh-huh.
had D.R. Horton when Westchester was out there. Winchester, I'm sorry, Winchester Ridge was out there. That closed about 2 years ago. They finished, but now they're opening another community
Oh,
here shortly. Then you have KB Homes just opened up a community out there, and I'm sure it's more that's coming. So I'm like, okay, there is so much open land back there. So he really like lucked up to have
huh?
a trailer on that property as well as a land that size,
Mhm.
it's sky's the limit for 100 and it was listed at 120. I think they went up on the price
Yeah.
to be more
Uh-huh.
competitive, of course, because it's room. It's
Yeah,
room.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
room.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's amazing. And also too, like you can't just have any realtor to buy this home because you
right.
guys had to be, what is it, verified by a
Yeah,
HUD or what's
you
what's
got
the
to be
process
HUD
on your?
verified.
Yeah.
It's a process. It's a
I,
process. But I like to tell people real estate, I love real estate because real estate is not one facet.
right.
It is so many different avenues to real estate. And I'm gonna touch on like we may not even do the home buying thing today. We
Hey,
can
let's just
talk about
talk. Let's let it go.
it. And we could just touch on it, but it's so many different facets to real estate. You have the investment side of it, where for him, in a sense, even though he's going to be living in it, it may not be his forever home. Or
Right.
one day he may want to tear down the trailer or and build up a house there. Sometimes I think people come in looking at, oh, I want my dream house right now. And
Mm-hmm.
they don't think about where are you right now? He's
Right.
moving to the area. Why go and spend on a lavish house? And you need to first see what the area may be like for you. What is your budget today versus what your budget may be? He's growing. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that he came in right where he was at. He didn't come in trying to get the fluff and
Yeah.
everything with it. He know what he was looking for. He saw a great deal and he took the advice. Main thing, he took the
There
advice
you go.
and he ran with it. I talk about
Uh-huh.
a lot of times investment, because I look to the future for of things, right? Real
Yeah.
estate for me is that tool, that wealth building tool. And you should check out my TikTok. I mean, I told my husband I gotta go on there tonight and answer these questions on the TikTok. I made a post last night.
Oh,
The post said, wealth building through real estate,
yeah.
right? And baffling enough, a lot of people disagree that you can build wealth through real estate. And I beg to differ. I beg to differ.
So what in the world could you say in contrary to that? What's their argument?
I don't know. I guess the stock market is the next thing. I don't know what else they think you're going to build wealth through. And I think a lot of people think wealth is tomorrow,
Yeah.
day,
Yeah.
next week. Wealth is a gradual build, right?
Yeah.
And people not understanding real estate, time over time, year over year over year, real estate grows,
Yeah.
right? So if wealth grows, real estate grows, why would that not be a great tool to use,
Yeah. And
right?
what's the biggest asset that you have, right? Typically, most people, and I work in the divorce world a lot. So I
Mhm.
see the biggest assets that people have are typically either their home or if they're older, it's your retirement accounts. So
Yeah.
imagine what your parents paid for their home that they have,
Mhm.
and imagine
Right.
what that home is worth now. And say that they just decide they want to downgrade or whatever the case is, they sell that home. My God, they've made 5 times what the home is worth, and then
Exactly.
have a little padding on top of it. So from a mortgage world, I can tell you how your home is absolutely a wealth building piece, because here's
Let's talk
something
about it.
that a lot of people maybe you don't know, because you're sitting here thinking like, okay, how much income do I have to own 10 homes or something like that? And when you
Mhm.
think about that, that's daunting. From a mortgage perspective, here's how we look at it. So say you bought a home today, me and Keneshia help you buy a home. A
Mhm.
year from now, that does not have to be your primary home anymore. And you go
Exactly.
buy a new primary home. And what you're going to do is rent this home out. It's a lot easier to rent it out as like a long-term rental, like
Mhm.
like somebody in a lease.
Yeah.
Airbnb from the mortgage side is a little more iffy
Shaky.
because
Mhm. Mhm.
it
Mhm.
varies more. You don't know exactly how much you're going to make per month on it. So a rental lease though is you're going to make X amount a month every month for 12 months until the next person comes along.
Exactly.
So we view that as a more stable investment. So what
Mhm.
you do is you buy that home as a primary, you have to live in it for at least a year, and
Mhm.
then and when you go to buy your new primary, you rent this one out. Now your rent cancels out this lease. So it's like you're qualifying for a new home altogether.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay. And then rinse and repeat. You can do that. Now, obviously, a lot of people don't want to buy a new home every year, but I'm just saying, say that you did that 3 or 4 times over your lifetime,
Yeah.
and now you've got 4 homes 3 of them generating passive income on the side, as well as your existing home. And typically you rent it for more than what your mortgage is anyway. So even if you put
Exactly.
$100 more a month towards your mortgage, you will be shocked at how much more quickly that pays off your mortgage. There are calculators online. If you go to Dave Ramsey's site, whatever you think about him, regardless, he has a good calculator.
He has a great calculator on there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's what you do. You just rinse and repeat to keep doing that over and over again until you've gotten to where you want. And now you have your retirement plan and your homes. We're not qualifying you for 5 different homes at once. You've got all of those sort of paid off as you go, and boom.
And I'm glad you said that, Carly, that you're not doing it all at once, because I think that's the fear of people. People take it as this big pizza, and I'm gonna break it down like that, as a whole pizza, and you're trying to eat that whole pizza, shove it all in your mouth at one time.
Yeah.
That's where the fear comes in at. You know, I like to look and say, oh, she did it, he did it, so why can't I do it? You know, it's a mind frame thing, it's a mindset thing. Yes, you can do it. All you have to do now is just get that pizza cutter.
Yeah.
Cut you some slices and then bite the slice. So you just take it piece by piece. No, you're not going to go buy 5 houses all at one time. But, you know, you can buy 5 houses over the course of your lifetime. And like Carly just gave the example, 4 of them can be your investment properties and 1 of them that you can live in. Of course, the one that you're living in is not making you money, generating money, but the other 4 are making you money, right? And it's the rinse and repeat cycle that people don't understand or get the concept of, and hence why it's like, no, you can't get rich off of real estate. No, you can't get wealthy. Yes, you can. It's about time and compounding it and doing this thing over and over and allowing your money to sit and allowing time to do what it needs to do. Because a house that you have for 5 years, yeah, you're not going to get the same amount of equity out of it as a house that you have for 20 years. So if we're going to be looking at it on the investment side and we're not looking at it as a get rich scheme, therefore we'll leave that house alone and then you can borrow from there. And that's a whole nother thing we'll talk about. We'll go into that even more. But yes, you can. And yes, you can have multiple loans. And this is a question for you, Carly, right? Because, you know, I predominantly work a lot with VA clients, right? But this can be for each loan type, right?
Yeah.
With the VA loan, have they capped a certain amount that you're able to, that a veteran is able to purchase, use, right? And then let's say they do cap it at 600, right? If that's the case, and let's say I bought something at $300,000, once that year is over with, can I now go and buy something else at 300,000? That's, or explain that part for me.
Yeah. So your home buying power as a VA borrower, as a veteran, is based on your entitlement. So if you ever do your certificate of eligibility, it'll tell you how much entitlement you left. And I don't know that there's an easy way we have a worksheet that we use. So we'll look at what your existing home is and how much that existing home has used up of your entitlement. Because we worked with a guy recently that had a home out in, what was it, Washington or something like that? Washington. That was a VA loan, and he bought a home here with a VA loan. So the idea that you can't buy multiple homes with a VA loan is not true. The home here was inexpensive enough that he had enough entitlement left, and it was still a $300,000 home, I want to say, and the home out there was
about 300-400 almost,
something like that. So you can buy 2 fairly nice homes for under that VA entitlement. It's just a worksheet. Now sometimes you may still be able to buy it, but it might require a down payment depending. So if you're interested and you already own one, let us do one of those entitlement worksheets for you. They take like 2 minutes, and we can see how much you have left and how much purchase price power you have with that. So it is possible. But also as a VA, you're not, like, if you're a veteran, you're not stuck in a VA loan. You can go conventional. In fact, the borrower that we were talking about with the HUD house, he's a VA borrower, but he decided to go conventional because of the type of the home this was, and it just made it a lot easier. So he went conventional. So you have both options as a veteran. You're not forced into it. The only difference is that there's a down payment always associated with a conventional loan, whereas not always with a VA loan.
Right. Which, I mean, at the end of the day, in his scenario and in his case, it worked out perfectly.
Mhm.
And with that being said, the payments was a little bit lower for him because, he had to put a down payment down. So
Mhm.
if you have like a little extra
Exactly.
income here and there, maybe a conventional loan would be a better benefit for
It
you,
could
especially
be.
when we're dealing with investment properties.
Mhm.
It's a little bit more lenient.
Yeah. Yeah,
than
because
a
that's
VA
the
loan.
thing. That's the thing about other loan types is conventional is the one that you can buy second and investment homes on.
Yeah.
The other ones are primary home purchases, and you have to keep in mind too. We were talking about the rinse and repeat thing
Yeah.
with buying your homes, and some people will say, "Well, I want to buy my home as a second home or an investment property," and you can. The difference is, and why I usually say if you can or are willing to go with the primary, then you should, because your primary home purchase, when you purchase it on a conventional loan, is either a 3 or 5% down. Your
Right.
secondary purchases are also 5% down. However, if you buy a second home, it's at least 10% down. And if you buy an investment property, it's at least 15.
Ooh.
And especially right now, I'll just give you a difference of rates where they were. If
Right.
I have another client in North Carolina that's looking at these options right now.
Okay.
His primary home purchase rate was 7 1/8, so 7,125.
Okay.
His secondary or investment home purchase was 8.5 plus about a point and a third.
Okay.
So now they require more money down, so that obviously lowers your loan amount. So, you're working with a lower loan amount, but your interest rate is always going to be significantly higher on a second home or an investment. So you have to look and see, does that make sense for you? Like, are you willing to leave your primary and go to the new home, because you will save a lot in terms of, and obviously with a primary, you can still put 10 or 15% down if you have it, if you want to, and that'll get you a more positive rate. But
Right.
if you go that second home or investment route, you have to put more down.
You have to put more down. And you're
Yeah.
saying on that investment side like that, the interest rate is like a little bit higher. So
Yeah.
right now, Carly, with interest rates being about the 7.125 rate on a investment purchase, what would that rate look like?
Yeah. So on his, it was an 8.5.
Oh, so not too bad then.
A full point higher. So, and it depends on the property too, because when we're talking about a full point higher on a $100,000 property or a condo or
Yeah.
something like that, okay, your monthly payment doesn't suffer significantly. A point higher or more on a $400,000 property though, like then you're gonna see a pretty big change in your payment. And not to mention, those two also come with a point. But I think the secondary was about a point and the investment was like 1.3 points. And a point is based on the purchase price of the, or no, is it purchase price or loan amount? I always get them mixed up. I think it's loan amount. So if it's $100,000 home, 1 point is $100.
Okay.
So if you're buying, and that goes up as you, no, wait, 1 point is $1,000. So that goes up with your loan amount. So if your loan amount goes up, the number of points that you're paying for go up with that price.
Also, you're saying that it costs $1,000 for that.
For 1 point. Yes.
For 1 point. Oh, and that's if you want to drop the point or just period?
No, just second and third homes, second and investment properties right now just are all, their pricing is just coming automatically with a point. Like the best that we can possibly do in terms of getting no points is still a point to a point and a third.
Okay, so you're paying for that, those points. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's on the investment side. So
and that's on the investment side. And sometimes there's no way around it. Sometimes that's just what you're going to do, but you're going to make the money off of that property.
But let me tell you what's so great about that, Carly. And back to my note of I work predominantly with VA buyers, right? So the great part about that is picture an active duty soldier, right? And they're moving every 4 years to a new duty station. If you're saying, hey, I want to try out the investment side of it, when you move to that new duty station, guess what? You need a new primary residence anyways, so you're past that 1 year mark. And now you move to the next duty station, go ahead and purchase your other property. And then when you move from that duty station, you go to the next duty station, you're getting a renter in those properties. So guess what? That cost is not against you, your DTI,
not count against
like
you.
that, because you have a renter in there and boom, you're on to the next property.
Yeah.
So when someone say, how you can't get wealthy through real estate. I'm looking
Yeah.
at how
I
you
don't
cannot.
I don't know what they're talking about
I don't know what
because
you're talking
there's
about.
also an in between of that you guys might be aware of. So there's a bit of a loophole. If
Oh,
you're buying, let's say, a duplex or a triplex or something like that, if you are living in one of the units,
right.
now we consider that your primary. You're living there. You can
Mhm.
live in one and you can rent out the other. And this changed within the last couple of years, but you don't have to pay that multi-unit investment property down payment. You can get into one of those homes for 5% down,
Oh,
almost like a regular conventional loan, and we can count rental income from that duplex to help you qualify for that home.
wait.
Yeah.
So we're
Mhm.
saying, typically if we would have had to purchase it as an investment property,
Mhm.
we no longer have to do that now. We can go ahead and say primary because I'm
It's
going to
primary.
live on one side.
You're going to live in it. So then you get a much smaller down payment. And it's like a mix of the two.
Yeah.
Typically, when you buy an investment property, what we can do is you purchase like if you were just purchasing an investment property in general, you already own your primary, you're just buying something in a state that you don't live or something like that.
Okay.
And we can do something called a rent schedule when we do your appraisal, and it'll tell us what the fair market rent is for
Oh.
that property, and we can count 75% of that as income for you, or at least to offset the cost of it. There's different rules and regulations. I'm not going to bore everybody with that, but sometimes we can give you positive rental income. Sometimes we can only cancel out the mortgage payment on that property. One of the two, though. Either of them is very helpful.
Right.
Because that.
Exactly.
So. Mhm.
Wait, I'm sorry to cut you off, Carly. So
You're
we're
good.
saying that like if I live in Florida now and I wanted to purchase in North Carolina or something like that, I can purchase this duplex and do it with the 5%, saying I'm gonna live.
Well, if that is, so the different states one is just an example
Oh, okay.
of if you're buying something there and it's purely investment, it's not going to be any sort of primary, then
Okay.
we can still help you out there because you're going to do an appraisal regardless. And on the
Oh,
appraisal, we get something called a rent schedule, which will tell us what the fair market rent is of that property. And since we know you're purchasing it for the purpose of rental income, you can count some of that income at the very least, usually to cancel out the cost of the mortgage. But in certain circumstances, like if you've already previously been a landlord, this is something that you're doing again, they give you a little more leeway. When you're a first time landlord, they don't give you as much leeway. They usually only let you
exactly.
cancel out the cost of the mortgage. You don't get any additional income on top of that. But if you are buying in Florida, let's say you're
Okay.
buying a duplex and you're living in one side and you're renting out the other, 5% down because it's still your primary. And we can use a rent schedule to see how much rent you would be bringing in from that other side of the duplex and give you that as income to help you qualify for that duplex.
Before I even get a renter in there, so it's not even like it's almost like the DSCR.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, a DSCR is a great option. Now, I'm working with somebody right now that wants a DSCR, and there's some things as a new person to it that you have to keep in mind. One, you on almost all DSCR options, you have to own your own primary already.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's a big thing because if you don't own your own primary and you're just trying to start getting some passive income, I do have one option that will allow for it, but usually in circumstances where they're doing something that's not normally allowed, you pay for it in one way or the other. You pay for it in rate or you have to put more down.
Okay.
So, but a DSCR is great like that. And if you do own your own primary as a first time investor, they do usually have a little bit of a pricing addition on there as your first time, but you get into it. And a DSCR, all that means is your income plays no part in the picture. You are qualifying for the home based on the projected income of that property. So they're wanting to see basically it's either greater or less than 1. So are you making money on that property or are you losing money on that property or, only minimally? And that's how they decide your rate and all your terms and stuff like that. So they're just qualifying you based on the income of that property itself, as opposed to looking at your taxes or your interest, blah, 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 that, we can run into issues with. So that's a DSCR. Loan.
All right, and so we're saying with the other one that the new one that you're talking about with the 5%, you qualifying with your income. Okay.
Yes. You're calling with your income, but we can treat your income from that rental side as more income.
More income, girl. Yeah.
So because you're basically qualifying for 2 houses at once, essentially.
Yeah.
They're somewhat cheaper overall because they share a wall or at least one wall or something like that. So they're not two totally separate things, but they treat it as one building with multiple units.
Yeah.
And you're qualifying for that with the knowledge that you're going to be generating income on part of it. So it helps you afford a more expensive property than maybe you would be able to afford if you were buying 2 separate ones.
Separate ones.
If that makes sense.
Wow.
And that goes up to 4 units.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
Well, that was good, Carly. We jumped in here and we talked about HUD. We talked about investments.
Mhm.
We'll come back on here again next week and we'll go over the home buying. Go back to our beginning home buying for anyone that didn't catch us in the beginning, way back months ago when we first started our lives.
Yeah.
We'll go back through that the beginning of the home buying process. That way, if we have any new followers that want to, get the information on that, we can go ahead and give them that next week. Okay, so we can.
Well, next week is Thanksgiving, right? So probably everybody's going to be covering themselves in turkey and.
No, yes, not next week. I'm so sorry. I guess I don't want no turkey either then, huh? So let's.
I bet you are going to be cooking up a storm though. If I know any. She already played it.
This year so far, what I say, we're going to do turkey. We're going to do a smoked turkey and we're going to do smoked brisket. Right? Yes, I need a brisket in my life. I feel like I just need a brisket to just break apart and it just melts and I just need that.
Yeah, I'm going to my in-laws for that, and they are notorious for like doing far too healthy options. So I'm gonna be the one that brings the cream cheese pumpkin roll and
I love it.
Potatoes.
I know the sweet potatoes. Oh yes.
Cheesy potatoes, sweet potatoes, chicken dip, like all of the terrible things for you. I'll bring that into it, and we can have healthy other sides that are vegetarian and pescatarian, but I'm gonna bring the dairy.
You heard what I say I'm gonna do. I want me a fat brisket.
Exactly. Because my family did my father-in-law did a parsnip pie as opposed to a pumpkin pie, and I said this is blasphemous. Next year I'm bringing a full pumpkin pie. He's good. It tasted as good as it could possibly taste, being parsnip as opposed to like pumpkin and very limited sugar, but I want the sugar. So I'm bringing that myself. So we will have that.
I know that's right. I want me a nice peach cobbler also with ice cream. All of that.
Calories don't count on Thanksgiving. They just disappear.
And it's cold. Girl, why is Jacksonville so cold? Why is it doing me like this?
I thought of you because I was like, your like Jamaican blood is probably like frozen at this point. I'm over here like wearing shorts to pick my daughter up from school because I'm from the mountains and I'm like it's like we used to have a husky, and whenever we'd have cold weather or snow, I would look at him like, you feel like you're home, don't you, buddy? Like you're happy in this environment. And I have like an inner husky that feels like that right now. I'm just like,
yes. My gosh. No, ma'am.
No, I know. I thought of you and I was like, she hates it.
I'm about this close to turning on my heater. I'm about this close.
Yeah, it's gonna smell for a while. I hate that aspect of it, but soak it in, man. Yeah. It won't last for long. We're in Florida. It'll be gone in like a couple days.
I can't wait. I'm like, shoot, I'm used to my Christmas in shorts. Okay? What are you doing, Florida? What are you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
But anyways, I'm about to go run and do these showings, girl. My whole afternoon is nothing but showing. So
loved it. Love it. Go sell some houses.
I will. So we'll go not next week because we're going to be
the week after.
We'll go the week after. All right.
Okay. That sounds good.
Right.
Okay.
Talk to you soon.
Bye, guys. Happy Thanksgiving. Bye.
Bye. Bye. All right. Let me end this.